Welcome back to another episode of Off Hours with Bourbon Lens. We're excited for season 2 to start here, and we have a whole new slew of guests, and we're going to be hanging out with not just one Jake, you get 2 Jakes for these episodes over the next few weeks. And we are first joined by Dafne Mejia, who is formerly an executive chef, but now all private chef because COVID sucks. So Dafne, thank you so much for joining this episode of Bourbon Lens with Off Hours.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk to not one, but 2 Jakes about bourbon.
Yeah.
What an honor.
Jake squared, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, like I mentioned, this is going to be a conversation about, just what's going on in the world. So, in the title, in the intro, like it explains a lot. You are a chef, and I almost bring up cooking on every one of my episodes on the regular podcast. And so I just have to ask, is it as intense as it looks like on like the cooking shows to actually be a chef?
Oh my God. I mean, I think I have PTSD from just every single job I've ever had. Like it just keeps stacking up on top, but it does make you into a stronger person for sure. It's not for everyone.
No, I can't imagine. And so how did you get to know this other Jake? How what was that story to get you all connected?
Well, I mean, thankfully, COVID was good to me. That's sad to say out loud, but it was horrible for so many people. But for me, it gave me kind of that open door to another industry, which is the private chef life. And as an executive chef working for 10 years on the line, like I never in a million years would even think to become a private chef. That's a whole different thing. So, I started working for this businessman, and then through him, I had to cook for his family and friends. And then I met Jake, and we got along because, hey, I'm an alcoholic. I love bourbon. I love anything that has to do with that. It's actually my choice of drink. So we started talking, and we just vibe because, in the kitchen, you start talking about things that you love, like food and bourbon, they go hand in hand. So that's how I met Jake.
Awesome.
Through COVID.
So Jake, do you remember it any different than just that? Or was it really just a love for bourbon?
I remembered you when you were at the restaurant. I would see you in there every once in a while. And then, when everything shut down, I really didn't know what the plan was. And then all of a sudden I saw her in the kitchen one time, and I was like, what are you doing here? And she's like, well, actually, I'm going to be cooking more and everything. I was like, this is great. And I still remember it was like around lunchtime, and I was starving, and I was like, are you making anything? Can I get something? She's like, yeah, what do you want? I was like, honestly, like some sort of like taco salad, taco bowl type of thing, like sounds really good. She's like, oh yeah, I'll just whip something up real quick. And 10 minutes later it comes out, and it was the most incredible salad I've ever had in my life. And I was like, it's just that easy, huh? And she's like, yeah, it was just like a little bit of corn and beans, this and that. I was like, okay, yeah, you're on a whole nother level here.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Well, and we always talk about like creativity, bourbon, food, music. It all goes hand in hand. And like, I feel like there's some people that can just see ingredients and just make it happen. And so like, do you feel like kind of like a savant when you just like, you go and there's like the produce and everything in front of you, like, I know what I can do with X, Y, and Z, and that's what's coming out?
Oh my God. Honestly, that term, thank you for saying I'm a savant, because I totally agree with that. Honestly, anytime I see just like beautiful colors in the kitchen, to me, I look at it as a canvas. I'm like, I'm going to get this and that. And of course I have music playing in the back and my little bourbon on the side, because all of that go hand in hand. But anytime that, I have to make something on the fly with random ingredients, I feel like I thrive, because it really starts getting my just mechanics moving in my brain. And I'm like, okay, this goes with this, savory with sweet and like tangy. And like I really want for everyone to kind of taste everything in their mouth, like use all your taste buds and your tongue. So anytime someone throws something at me, like Jake will be like, I just want a burger. I'll elevate the burger. I won't give you just like McDonald's, it's like, it's my little heart in the food. So I thrive with that, honestly.
Now I'm hungry. And like we mentioned before this episode, I had to order wings for my wife. And I'm like, man, I should be up in the kitchen, like whipping something up. But
you could.
I could.
It does take a lot, though. It takes a lot out of you. That's the only thing.
See, like cooking gives me energy. Like it's like one of those things, like I like going in there and I like cutting it up. The least favorite part of cooking is very simple. It's doing the dishes. Ain't nobody got time for any of that.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, that's why you need a dishwasher.
Oh, I got that. But like your cutting boards, your knives, like the nice things, like the little tedious things. Cause like my wife will like throw the knife in the washer. I'm like, nah, they can't be there.
Dude.
Yeah.
No, that's the worst thing you can do.
Yeah. So I take it out and we'll clean it off, got the Dawn power wash, it's all good. So, speaking the parallels and, as you get into whiskey and bourbon, like what was that first, bourbon that kind of caught your eye, that first whiskey that caught your eye? They're like, this is good. I can have this as my whiskey of choice.
To be honest, I used to always drink Maker's Mark just because the bottle looked elegant to me. I was like, ooh, it's with wax. Like how fancy. And then, I started getting into other things. I'm like, oh my God, whiskey and bourbon are so different yet so similar. So I feel like once my palate got kind of just elevated and matured, I started getting into bourbon because whiskey's more for, those like college kids. And then once you get into the big dogs, you're like, I just want a glass of bourbon. So to me, once I started, working for the elite kind of group and working on the line longer, my job was just more stressful. I was like, I just want something that's going to do what it does. And that was bourbon for me. And like, anytime Jake's like, hey, you want some bourbon? I'm like, fuck yeah, I do. And I touch like that fast.
Yeah. Well, and like that, I think that's the crazy thing. So, as Jake has asked you to like whip up an elevated burger, has Jake ever said like, hey, I got these samples, let's taste through them?
Honestly, yeah. Anytime Jake has like a cool company that he works with, he's like, hey, I have these bitters or like whatever, like taste this. But usually it's just clean because you don't need that much. Bourbon is already so good because of the barrel and like how it's aged. So it's a drink that not many can drink, but those that know what it should taste like and have just like, I don't know, just a very good palate will be able to handle bourbon.
Mm-hmm.
Not for weak people, for sure.
Wow. Heavy hitter. Like we're in an industry not for weak people. That's what the chefs and the bourbon drinkers are not weak people. That's what we just learned on this episode. So I think that might be the title. But as we roll through here, there's a lot of, I don't know, stress involved with whiskey making and also cooking, as we talked about. So in this area, you live in a nice part of the country, right? Like what ways do you unwind? Like when you say, hey, like it's been a long shift, I got my day off tomorrow. Like how do you unwind, for your free time or your off hours time?
Honestly, I love checking out new bars. Like I love going to bourbon bars, whiskey bars. Like that's my choice of drink. Everyone's always like, oh, do you want tequila? I'm like, hell no. You don't want to see Ratchet Daphne. Like I'd rather stick with bourbon. So anytime like I just have had like 10 hours of work, I come in, I change really quick. I say hi, bye to my pets and then I get out. I go out. I go to a place that has, first of all, good vibes, good music, good people, and of course, good drinks. And like me, that is just such a good stress reliever because it makes me black out everything that I need to do the next day or what I went through the current day. So for me, it's going out and getting a drink with my friends and talking about, life and stuff, just like reminiscing over the day.
Yeah. No, I think that's so good. Like, it's funny, like living here in Louisville, people are like, oh, there's got to be so many good bourbon bars and like good bars to like go out to. And it's like, man, Louisville's not that scene. So it kind of like crushes me. Like to hear like when people are in LA or New York or Chicago, they're like, oh, there's these bourbon bars. And like, they're don't get me wrong, they're coming. But just like everywhere else, because Louisville's a destination for whiskey, it's super expensive when you go and you get your cocktails and things of that nature. So I'm jealous that there might be more options out in LA than there are here in Kentucky.
We're paying $30 for our drinks. Like, don't think it's cheap here either.
Oh, I mean, but that's the thing. Like Louisville's whiskey, and Jake, keep me honest. Like an old fashioned downtown Louisville is $25-$30, and then come Derby time, 40.
Yeah, it's only going to get higher.
Yeah. So like, it's kind of like that's our thing, right? Like Kentucky's thing is whiskey, and like in Louisville, that's where everybody flies into. You have two options. You got Lexington or Louisville, and most of the time you're flying into Louisville because you're just more centrally located, and it's super, super difficult to be able to find a drink that's not in downtown, not elevated from a price perspective.
I heard you guys drink a lot of Bloody Marys, though. Is that actually an accurate thing?
Oh yeah, Bloody's on Sundays, and Sunday brunch is pretty accurate for Louisville. I'd say that you wouldn't be hard pressed to find a Bloody Mary bar like go and create your own Bloody Mary, and that may be pre-COVID, but they're coming back.
Hell yeah, you should have a bourbon cart, just with all these different bitters and bourbons and like liqueurs and garnishes. That'd be cool.
Well, there'd be some really cool things and opportunities in that area, like to have more of a canvas from an old fashioned or Manhattan perspective. Like keep it like two cocktails. I hate Manhattans, and I will continue to yell it from the rooftop. I don't know how everyone else feels about that, but me and vermouth. Yeah. We butt heads. Just not my cocktail of choice. Are you all old fashioned drinkers? Are you all Manhattan? What's your cocktail?
I don't shy away either way. I don't mind a Manhattan. I probably more lean a little bit more towards an old fashioned, but I think now that we with off hours and everything and having the mixologists and stuff, like we try to get creative with things and. You brought up the Bloody Mary. We actually made one. This has been a couple of weeks ago. We made one. It was literally the first time I think I've ever had a bourbon Bloody Mary. It was great, and I think I'm going to do this moving forward. Yeah, I was like, this is way better than vodka. So I think we're going to add that to the mix now. But I'm usually not too picky.
Honestly, I love old fashions. Anytime I go to the bar and like a guy's like, "What do you want?" I'm like, I'll take an old fashioned. They're like, oh, I'm shook, like this woman drinking a man's drink. I'm like, yeah, I'm no ordinary person. Like I like good drinks. So old fashioned is my gal, or Bloody Marys. And if you said bourbon, I would love to try that. That's really hard to kind of mix in there. So
yeah.
Well, it's really interesting. Like a lot of people are using White Dog in margaritas. So like getting base distillate and utilizing that. If you have a really super sweet, like almost a wheater as a base distillate, utilizing that as a substitute for a margarita. So you can get a whiskey Rita is becoming more popular here as well. So, I think the cocktail scene is something that continues to evolve. And not unlike creating a good dish, creating a good cocktail requires a lot of elements that I don't want to go spend money on to have in my house. I think that's the other thing. What you're hearing is I'm kind of cheap. And I'm saying that out loud to myself because I don't want to own all the extra stuff to be able to do that. And there's an art form to that I can't make good cocktails. Just can't do it.
Honestly, and I feel like chefs and bartenders have such a similar palate and just similar creativity because whenever I go into the bar, there's so many things. Like it almost looks like witchcraft on there. You're just like, you have so many things that you can use. And like in the kitchen, we're the same. So like for me, making a drink, like you can elevate it so much. And now it's 2023. Like it just keeps getting better and better every single year. Like people keep coming up with cool shit. I don't know how. It's insane.
So this is going to be like my obscure question talking about that because things change and I watch a ton of cooking shows. Like what's the like coolest cooking tool that you like, the new age cooking tool that you like? Like, is it the cryo, like pouring over liquid nitrogen, or is it the vacuum sealer to like quick marinade things? Like what's your gadget of choice when it comes to new age cooking?
Honestly, coffee cups, like to measure shit because I cook like grandmas. Like I don't do any of these like new knickknacks, even though I do, work with people that use vacuum seal and all that stuff. Like I keep it old school because you can never forget where you learned all this food from. And there'll always be chefs that are going to be like, I use the best I use the new and improved machine and Roboku and like Vitamix. And I'm like, dude, I'm just going to use my hands. I'm just going to use go old school because I cannot forget who I came from, like my grandma. And my style of cooking, like Jake knows, is very rustic grandma style. Like I use my hands to make pasta. I never use the pasta machine. So for me, like that's not my style of cooking. But if you talk to other chefs, they'll be like, oh yeah, I use an immersion blender and I use that. I'm like, no, I'm going to put some elbow grease. I'm going to use a whisk,
Yeah. Hey, I'm with you. Because again, I'm not going to buy all that new fancy equipment. So,
it's too.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Man, all these hobbies. First of all, drink responsibly. Drinking is not cheap. Cooking in the grocery store. I don't know if you've been to your favorite grocer, pick one, lately, but a dozen eggs is like $4. And then mixology is not cheap either. So everything we're doing, a barrel of whiskey, Jake knows, is also going up infinitely. And so it's like these hobbies, while they're good for us and they create enjoyment and conversation, are not cheap.
I mean, I stopped at Air One. I rack up like $1,000 sometimes. Like, I think Jake also goes to Air One. It's just
there's one right by our house, so it's convenient. But you definitely got to pick and choose. If it's going to be like a bigger grocery run, then you got to go somewhere else. If it's just popping in to grab like a handful of things here and there, it can add up really quickly if you go that. Yeah. But
like no matter where you go, it's so expensive.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And
you just got to go to that Kroger Brown, man. You got to go to Ralph's. Just look, Cincinnati tie right there. Boom.
Yeah, there you go. There's your Kroger.
Yeah, I'm bringing it back home for you on that one.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I mean it's so crazy, and it's only going to get a little more expensive as we go. But such is life, and that's why we do jobs to make money and enjoy our habits. So I've kind of shied away from this, but I'm just going to go full bore into it because a lot of people are still like of the opinion. They're like, oh, whiskey's a man's drink. And I think it's so cool, like just to like get started that we're talking to a female. And like there's people like Bourbon Women and Peggy No Stevens and like these icons in whiskey that don't get enough love. And so it's really cool to talk to someone who appreciates whiskey as just a consumer of it and not like we're not like forcing it to like, hey, there's this person who's so highly sought after. No, it's like, hey, Dafne is just a regular old person enjoying a good whiskey. And like, I think that's really cool because not many people understand that women enjoy this product and women taste product better than men. And so it's like, you're going to tell us different things. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I feel like my palate is definitely a lot different than men's. Like what you said, like women just have a specific taste. Like they don't like super bitter things or like smoky sometimes. And like for me, anytime I taste bourbon, I'm like, like it really checks every single box of the balance. Like it's smoky, it's bitter, it's sweet, it's like elegant, it doesn't linger, it doesn't taste like medicine. And like to me, I just hate other drinks. Like I hate tequila. I hate the fact that people just judge me right away because I'm Hispanic. They're like, this Hispanic drinks tequila. I'm like, hell no. Like I don't. Like you don't want to see me on tequila. I don't enjoy it. It doesn't go with my body. But for some reason, anytime I drink whiskey or bourbon, like I don't have a hangover. I'm a happy person. I'm like, I love my life. Like it's great.
No, I think that's awesome though. Like, everyone has to enjoy their spirit their own way. And I think so many times we paint pictures of women are wine drinkers, or women are vodka drinkers, and men are bourbon and rum drinkers. And I'm like, that's just a really shitty way to look at life. And I'll ask Jake this question. My wife hates whiskey, so I can't really answer this. But will Lauren partake in a drink or a dram every now and again?
She will, yeah. So when we first launched Off Hours, she would try it neat, or she'd go rocks and be like, yeah, this is really good and everything. And then I was like, well, you don't have to drink it that way if you don't want to. Just like, okay. And then we started to find a few other sort of alternative cocktails and stuff that definitely still allow for the flavor and everything, that the taste profile we're looking for, but tone it down a little bit as far as maybe using a little bit more citrus or something just to take that edge off a little bit. So so I've got her drinking them, but typically she's not gonna get it unless she's there with me or if we're at the house and I'm making them for the two of us or something. So I would say it's probably not her first choice, but
yeah. Lauren, you're just feeding her bourbon. She's like, oh, I love it. And meanwhile, she's like,
yeah, exactly. It's like, judging by the look on your face, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if you love it.
Oh, been there, done that. Like I had my wife was like, hey, we're gonna sit down and I'm gonna get you to like whiskey. And she like smelled it, tasted like just the smallest little sip. She's like, it's fine. And you're like,
It's great.
you don't have to drink it. Like, if you don't want to, like, say no. Like, no is an acceptable answer. Like, I will drink your liquid that's in the glass. I promise. It won't go to waste.
Yeah, it will not go to waste.
Yeah. Oh man. No, those are good stories though, because man, the first time I drank whiskey, I think I probably made the exact same face. Like, sign me up for Kentucky Tavern when I was like 20. Drink responsibly, 21. We'll just say that for the podcast. And man, I drank that and I was like, oh, what did I just put in my body?
Yeah.
And then you drink better stuff that's more rounded, balanced, and you're like, oh, this is really good. And then Bob's your uncle because there's a shit ton of whiskey to explore.
Yep. You're going to be all right.
Yeah. Yeah. So Daphne, do you remember your first whiskey experience?
Honestly, I think it was when I was in my 20s because, you're in college, you're drinking, Four Locos and all that crap. And then I'm like, man, this is really what alcohol is about. And then I got into just more advanced kind of alcoholism, I guess. So I started drinking red wine with Italians. And then I tried the tequila and I was like, Casamigos, whatever, the Azul one. I was like, this is good, but it's not it just wasn't my favorite thing. And then finally, I think when I started becoming more of a sous chef / back of house manager in the kitchen, I was like, okay, I just need something that's going to keep me right and like do its thing and not linger. Sometimes when you drink other alcohol, it tastes like literally rubbing alcohol. So I think someone offered me bourbon or whiskey and I was like, let me just see if this is good. I tried it kind of like how Lauren was. I was like, oh yeah, this is good. Like, I don't mind it. But for some reason, I think I realized that no one was drinking it that was a woman. And I was like, I want to be different. I don't want to be like a basic person that's like, I don't like bourbon. It's like a man's drink. So I kind of forced myself to like it. And I was like, if anything, whenever I drink it and then I smell my breath, it's like fire. It's like, it's just like smoky flavor. I feel like a dragon. I just felt like a badass drinking it. And that's my kind of personality. I just want to be the most badass person. So I was forced to really love it. And now I can't even drink another thing. I'm so used to it. I love it. Yeah. So
as you've gotten into it, what's your favorite tasting note? Are you our favorite profile? Are you a barrel proof? Are you a weeded fan? Well, obviously you start with Maker's Mark, so that's a weeded bourbon. Like, what kind of portfolio or palate characteristics are you looking for when you drink whiskey?
Oh man, that's like a super professional question.
Well, you're getting really professional about how you're a fire breathing dragon, so we have to go there.
Honestly, I don't know. I love I guess barrels that are aged a long time. Like the longer it ages in the barrel, I feel like it's just, you don't need that much to drink. Like you can just sip it and then enjoy it, especially when it's cold. I'm like, oh, yeah, this is doing its thing. So I don't have a specific answer for that that specific question, but I would say any bourbon that's aged a long time is my favorite. I don't like super baby bourbons because I feel like those linger a lot and it's not a good taste in your mouth. So for me, I like this expensive stuff, I would say.
Yeah. So when we get those
only off hours, what are you talking about?
Yeah, that's called off hours PTO selection. That exactly, will be coming soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to get technical, right? The oaks, the vanillins, the tannins, you like those more robust traditional whiskey flavors, which are becoming harder and harder to find because barrels of whiskey are becoming more and more expensive, just like everything else. And so I'm right there with you. I don't care about proof as much. I'm not a barrel proof guy. I kind of like where 90 to 110, somewhere in that space. That's why, off hours is a solid drink for the majority of people because it sits in the not a harsh category. And if you want something that's powered up, you can go get a single barrel and that's closer to that 108, 110, range. And so, for me, I'm looking for age and flavor, depth of flavor. I hear that on cooking shows all the time. I want depth of flavor. I don't want just one note. I want 5, 6, 7 notes. And I want the notes, but beneath the notes, I want to play with a little bit of a drop of water. I want to get extraction of that one drink that I might have. That's, an ounce and a half and I paid $30, $40, $50, $60, $90 for it. Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, I love when you can taste all the kind of like seasonings in the barrel, like the star anise or the cinnamon and like all those like really kind of wintry flavors. I love vanilla. Oh my God. You can literally taste it. You just kind of have to drink it like wine. Like people don't realize you just take the shot of it and you're missing out. There's so much like flavor in bourbon. Like it's crazy how it just layers up and on top of each other. It's
Daphne,
amazing.
do you feel like just with your palate and constantly, trying different cuisines and everything, or cooking this all together, when you try a bourbon, the ideas that come to mind of like, you'll do some of these times you do these taste testings and, people are like, well, that's a creme brulee or that's a snickerdoodle cookie and that's a this to this and this. And it's like, okay, like, that's great and everything. Do you feel like do you come up with like that sort of cuisine of like, this reminds me of something? Or do you feel more of like, I do taste the vanilla or I taste more nutmeg or more caramel or something just kind of like unique?
Yeah, honestly, there's some bourbons that I try. I'm like, oh my God, this has such a umami flavor. Like there's like Japanese whiskey and bourbon that I'm like, oh my God, this tastes like just a sushi roll or like something that is elegant and light like that. And then there's times where I taste a bourbon, I'm like, this tastes like a dessert. Like it has so much vanilla and like just cinnamon and like I want to put it in with my coffee or like in a dessert. I actually use bourbon for all my desserts always. Like anytime that I make a dessert, I put bourbon because it's like vanilla extract. If you think about it, you can use it as vanilla extract. And that's why probably Evan gets drunk sometimes and he has my
Thank you.
so I gotta even cook it off, because it's so good. Like you can use it for so many things. It's so many flavor profiles. Like I think the only thing that I don't see bourbon go hand in hand with is Latin food. I think maybe because they're always so conflicting in flavors. Like Latin food is so spicy and like lemony and like intense, and then bourbon is its own thing. So that's the only one cuisine that I think it doesn't go well with. But there's so many others that it does. It's crazy.
Come on, give me some tres leches and a nice neat pour.
But that's a dessert though, like.
You could get away with like a cheese empanada. Like, or a cheese enchilada with not a lot of sauce. You could get away with it. Don't you tempt me to go up there in the cooking dome and make something and send it to you, and then you're gonna make Jake try it, and then he'll vomit.
Exactly. Yeah.
He'll be like, yeah, that was good. Yeah, yeah. No, you're probably right. I'm just over here just BSing.
It just makes sense, but once again, that goes into the dessert category.
It does. Oh, now I'm hungry. See,
now you need dessert again.
Now I need to eat.
Follow up the wings. Yeah.
Yeah.
You could always just drink and make food. Like sometimes that motivates me because you pour yourself a drink, you take care of the chef first, so make yourself a drink, put your good music on, and then you look at your fridge, you're like, what can I make? And I feel like anytime you drink it, your juices start flowing. You're not bored, so maybe try that for your wife.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
Daphne, did they frown on, on Hell's Kitchen of you pouring a drink and turning on your own music while you're trying to,
I wanted to drink so bad on Hell's Kitchen. They never gave us alcohol. I was so bummed. And it's like, here's alcohol. I was like, what do you mean? This is apple cider. Like, but the only time we were able to drink was when we got to the top 4, and that's like the elite black jackets. And like, that's when I was like, okay, I'm ready to drink. But at that point, I was just tired, and like I couldn't even think anymore. That I think bourbon or alcohol would have just knocked me down. Like I just couldn't, I was.
Do you think would help? Just like as nerve wracking as it is, being a finalist or being, having made it that far of like, oh man, like maybe I could take a step back and, calm the nerves a little bit? Or is it, you're in the zone and it's just like, you're close to the finish line, just get it done with?
To be honest, it's like the Olympics. So for me, I just couldn't even think about doing anything besides being sober because I just needed to be on my A game. Like I'm competing to win. And first of all, I have to come back to work and say, hey, I did really well. So for me, like I never wanted to drink because I was so stressed out. And then they throw curveballs at you. Like Chef Ramsay literally does not tell you shit. Like he's just like, surprise, you're gonna have to cook 500 things. Like it was just always so stressful. And like anytime I do drink bourbon, I am too relaxed. I'm like, let me chill. Like I'm not trying to cook while I'm like stressed like that. So
no, that dude seems very intense at all times. In everything he does. I've been watching his new show, Next Level Chef.
yeah.
He's a little more down to earth there, but he just looks scary. He like looks like don't talk to me unless I talk to you kind of guy. Is he like that, or is he a nicer guy in person?
He's very nice. He's very nice to the point where I think he loves his job now. He's been doing it for 40 years. So I think like kind of old Chef Ramsay was a lot different, just very intense military. There's YouTube videos on how intense he is, like cutting people out, all that stuff, which that's the way that chefs were back in the day. Now, you can't really do that on Hell's Kitchen. Sure, he would come around, you'd be like just military. You'd be like, yes, chef, like he's scary, first of all, because he knows so much and he's critiquing you for every single thing. Like, judging you on how you whip your eggs. And how you use a spoon to plate, like he is so judgmental, but it's right for him to do it because he's one of the elite chefs. And like, what better way to learn from someone like that? So you just kind of put your head down and listen to him. Yeah. You're like, yes.
Yeah. I always find that funny. They're like, yes, chef. And I'm like,
yeah,
all right. This is very intense and very military. Like, so, as you come out post-COVID, getting back into the chef world, like, do you have any like thought about going back and opening your own restaurant and like kind of going and achieving, that aspect of it? Or do you really like this private chef kind of work in the different cuisines, not have to worry about a set menu, but in really kind of exploring your creativity your creative boundaries? Wow.
Honestly, I truly do love my job. Like Jake sees he sees me at work and like, I love what I do, especially with my employer. He's so just a black diamond in this industry. So I do want to have my own restaurant eventually. I think right now I'm still like at the doorstep of this new realm of just, being a well-known chef. So I'm waiting for the right opportunity to kind of open up my own thing. But when I do, oh man, it's game over. Like I'm just going to have the best alcohol, the best music. The bathroom has to look nice. The bread has to be delicious. Like, I just want to be like one of the most elite restaurants in Los Angeles. And thankfully, I have, the backup of my boss. He's always like, let's do it. Let's do it. And like, I do want to do it. I'm just waiting for the right time because restaurants, you have a 50-50 chance of making it. And I don't ever want to fail at anything. Like, that's not in my resume, like now my resume is elite. Like I have so much that I've done and like succeeded at, and the fact that restaurants are a little sketchy right now. Like I feel like COVID slowly kind of normalizing now, so I'm just waiting for the right opportunity. Yeah, but definitely one.
Are there things that takeaways, I guess, from having been there as an executive chef and then taking a step away and kind of transferring over or transitioning to the private side and now potentially going back that in that world? Is there things that you know now that you would do differently, versus, kind of the first go around as far as, before you had went to the private side of do's and don'ts and just, life, I guess, how it changes?
Yeah, I would say that every person needs a balance in their life. When you work in restaurants, you don't even think about your own life. You think about work, restaurant, someone else's restaurant. And like what Private Chef has given me is that kind of chance to have my own life. I have time off. I get to spend time with my family. I really think about Dafne and what makes me feel good. And like usually restaurants don't. Anytime you ask your chef, hey chef, I need like 2 days off, they'll be like, no, you don't have a life. What do you mean? And so now working for the person that I do, the fact that he lets me live my life and have chances, I think as a restaurant owner, I'm going to make sure that my staff is happy and that they have the time that they need to keep themselves happy. Whatever that, taking bourbon or like going on a trip or hugging a tree, whatever that could be. Like you really have to think about yourself. You have to listen to your heart. And like, I want to be able to be that cool boss. That's like, just make sure you're happy.
Sure. Yeah. I feel like if not, then, you just, the likelihood of just becoming burnout and moving forward, moving on in a different direction probably would increase the odds of that significantly.
Yeah, and you go through a lot of drug abuse and alcohol abuse in the kitchen. Like, you have no idea how many times, like, I got a DUI during my sous chef era because I was just like working 70, 80 hours a week with no break. And then I was like, God, I still want to be happy to go out. And so I was drinking and then bam, got a DUI. And so that really set me back. And like a lot of drug abuse, like look at Anthony Bourdain, like very successful chef. And then he maybe didn't have a balanced life is what I'm guessing. So that's very important, honestly.
Yeah. Happened in my family. I had a cousin working in a kitchen, and no one's immune to anything, right? Especially when you're tired and you're worn down, anything can creep up and grab a hold of you. And so I find that to be, very true in that industry in particular, because it is very demanding. And not everyone knows what goes on behind the scenes. Like, you don't realize like, hey, these are people too that are preparing my food, even when you're sitting down at the most expensive restaurant, or if you're just going to Chili's on a Saturday, like those people have lives, and like most of the time they don't have one.
Most don't have one. Most people that work a 9 to 5 don't have a life. Yeah. Because they stress too much, You just got to find that balance for sure. Yeah. And like, I don't think you find it until you meet the right person that shows you that life. Because most people are like, they literally have a tunnel vision of how their career should go. And then once you see someone that's doing what they love and is happy and that has the time, you're like, oh shit, working 4 days a week is amazing. Everyone should be doing this, Like, who thought of the 5 days? That's bullshit. Honestly, it's great.
Agreed.
So I have to ask you this. As a chef, obviously you're going to be very particular and you're going to want to cook, but what would be like your dream meal to have?
That's so hard. Do you know how much great food is out there?
Yeah. Like if you, you could say, I want a little bit, like you could even go, where you like go a progressive style. Like you could say one drinks from this region, one appetizer from here, dinner. You can do it any way you want. It's your potential favorite meal or last meal on earth. What would it be?
Honestly, I would do a blue crab curry from like Thailand. Just because you get like the umami, you get the rice. It's still like almost like a very home cooking grandma style. It's like warm. It fills you up. So I would say blue crab curry, or honestly chicken wings. Like that was my favorite food in the world.
Hey.
And I'll be dead. I'm like, all right, I'm good. I had a chicken wing.
Hey, I'm with you on that. Now, the question is, do you like sauced wings or do you like wings that have spices into the breading?
Why not have both? Why can't I get both? You got to layer it up,
I mean, I'm all about layering, but like, I just feel like when you get a really good breaded spicy wing and it doesn't need a sauce, you're like, and maybe you just dip it in a little ranch or whatever your thing is, honey mustard, blue cheese, which we can talk about that. That is a terrible choice for any wing.
I agree.
Like whatever your poison is, man, when you get a nice breaded spicy wing, that's my jam.
I'd rather have it super like wet, honestly. Like I want my fingers to be nasty as fuck. Like when your hands are dirty, that's some good food.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to be clean eating my wing. That means it didn't do justice to me. Like I want mess.
Okay.
My mouth is getting so like I literally spit out like thinking of it. It's so good.
I feel you. So Jake, I got to ask you, like, what would be your meal?
My meal, it's funny. We talked about this like 2 weeks ago. It was like, from your starter to, what's the drink you're having, what's the appetizer, all the way through to dessert and everything. And I always go back to Skyline chili.
Ooh.
Because I don't get to have it out here anymore. So it's like, that's the go-to is that you gotta have bourbon and you get Skyline chili.
What's in the chili?
It's like a Cincinnati style chili. So it's like a little runnier, but then it goes on top of like a plate of spaghetti, and you can get it with, and then they just put like a mound of cheddar cheese on it. But, and then you can do onions or beans, and you can kind of do it however you want. But, yeah, grew up with it and it was amazing, and I just never get to have it anymore. So I think that's so I don't get it fancy at all. It's I think
hey, Hey, sign me up from Skyline anytime.
There we go.
I want the burrito with the chili cheese on the inside and give me 2 cheese conies with everything. Oh, just and throw some hot sauce on them.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't
do that here. They freak out anytime. That sounds like some redneck shit, you know? Like,
thanks, Daph.
Hey, I mean, I'm right there with you around those things. But I think at the end of the day, like, man, if I were to ask myself that question, because I'm going to ask myself, there's nothing better than going to like your favorite local Mexican joint and just getting a giant burrito and some chips and salsa and some guac and just be like, just crushing it. Like that's what I want. Back in the day, I would say like I would love a good hibachi meal because I love hibachi. But now, like I've just been on a Mexican kick lately, so just big burrito, chips, salsa, queso. It's got to just be the white queso. It didn't need to be much. Just some Oaxaca melted down. Just
you just go back to your roots. Honestly, I feel like you go to whatever makes you feel comfortable and like at home.
Yeah, feels the soul. Next time, Jake. Next time you're in town, we're going to Skyline.
100%. It's the first stop every time.
All right. Next time you're in Louisville, you just say, Jake, I'm here. And I'll be like, just tell me which one to meet you at. I'm down.
Wow. There's a chain of this.
Oh yeah. All of Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana.
Yeah.
Okay. I got to check it out. It's called Skyline
Chili.
Yeah.
And Gold Star's crap.
If you're in Michigan next time, Daphne, we'll have to figure out a way to get you some.
Oh my God. Yeah. I would love to try it. That sounds already good. I love chili, but it's made with pork, I'm guessing, or beef, right? It's not made with turkey, or what is it made out of?
It's beef.
Yeah.
We'll call it beef.
Questionable sometimes.
We'll take our full meal for a family of 4 for $20 and just, it is what it is, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's just like,
crackers with the hot sauce. Yeah.
And you know, the people out west don't really know about White Castles either. And some Big Red. That's enough.
There's some in Vegas, you get drunk in Vegas and go to White Castle and
yeah, but the thing about the Vegas White Castle is you're paying like $2 a slider there. Back home they're like 50 cents. So it's like you're getting a lot more bang for your buck.
Yeah, grill's never been cleaned.
Yeah. That's how you know it's made with love.
Yeah.
But no, we digress here in this portion of it. But this is what it's about, right? These are the conversations we want to talk about here on Off Hours. It's just getting to know people. And so we're going to continue the theme like we did last year. So last year, the theme and the last question on every episode was, what would be your one piece of advice for people to get out and enjoy their off hours?
Do you want to go first, Jake?
I say it every day. I don't know. You get it. I had to build a whole company around it. No, I think mine is always, it kind of goes back to what you were talking about earlier, Daphne. It's really, finding that balance in your life. And I think that a lot of times, everybody gets caught up in what they have going on, whether it's through their career or their family life or what their kids are doing or, you name it. And, you're attached to your phone all the time. And all of a sudden you just sort of, you pull your head up and all of a sudden 3 weeks have gone by, a month's gone by, and you're just like, holy shit, what just happened? And I think it's now just sort of taking a second to take a step back and, try to enjoy a few moments of calmness and, or try to make those moments, because I think that without your family and your friends and your health and, everything around you, I'm a big believer if you don't have that balance, then then you're not truly being your best self. And I think there's a lot of people that sacrifice their family life or their kids' stuff because of their career stuff and everything. And I know that there's always going to be, peaks and valleys with that, of sometimes things are a little bit crazier and, sometimes, life slows down a little bit. But I think as the general idea of just taking a step back and enjoying the moment, creating good conversations, creating memories, hopefully that, down the road, you're able to share again with that person or the family or friends or whoever it be, and really just, not taking life for granted, because, you're not going to get time back. And I think it's trying to make the best of it while you can.
Yeah. Well said, man. I really feel like to reach your full potential, you have to really slow down. You really have to like slow down and look around, look up, look down, look to the side, and like say good morning to people. Good morning. How's your day going? Like living in Los Angeles, it's a whole different world here. And I think I know that now because I was, with so many other people from other states when I was in Hell's Kitchen. And I was like, people in LA don't really slow down. We just think about living in the matrix. What are you driving? What's your career? What are you making? And so whenever you really get a chance to step back and take a sip of bourbon, like you really get to think about everything that you're doing. And then that way you get to kind of figure out, oh, am I going down the right path? Or am I going through this path that's going to lead me to me not remembering my life? So for me, like enjoy what you're doing, like kill it, work hard, but also take a step back and slow down. Like it's not all about making money or your career. You really have to enjoy life to the fullest. And sometimes that just means sitting down in front of a fire and drinking your favorite alcohol, whether that's bourbon or whatever. But just slow down. Slow down because you're going to miss so much in life if you don't, honestly.
Yeah, no, yeah. I think that makes a ton of sense. And man, slowing down is easier said than done, but it's so good. It's such a good reminder for the listeners. Well, Dafne, thank you so much for joining this episode of Off Hours with Bourbon Lens. We truly appreciate it. And you crushed it, girl. Crushed it. So if y'all want to find out more about Dafne, we'll have all of her social medias and links in the bio below in this episode. Jake, thank you for partnering up with us for another season of Off Hours with Bourbon Lens. And everyone, thanks for listening to this episode. If you want to find out more about Off Hours, go to offhours.com, or you can find them on socials at Drink Off Hours. And if you want to find out more about Bourbon Lens, you can go over to Bourbon Lens at all of our social medias, or you can go to our website, bourbonlens.com. And until next time, cheers.
I wish I had bourbon right now.